Yeah, there's no question there needs to be entitlement reform, not just with Medicare and Medicaid, but getting the federal budget deficit under control, getting the Social Security deficit under control. John McCain was one of those back in 1986 when Ronald Reagan proposed bipartisan legislation to help resolve Social Security and the deficit there and extend the life of Social Security. McCain was a strong supporter of that. So he's actually got some experience and some votes and a track record in terms of using entitlement reform to try and make sure these programs that are very, very important to Americans are solvent. So he's going to be doing that both with regards to Medicare and Medicaid. And again, I would go back to the economy, because if you have an economy that is growing and you have a broader pool of taxpayers, I mean, again, it's a simple formula. We do this in the state all the time, is when you have a wide variety of people that can pay, you can bring the rates down. It's when the whole pool gets smaller and smaller. And that's what's happening with insurance. When you have less and less people who are in the pool, the rates go up and up and up. And that creates a self-fulfilling prophecy that more and more people fall out of the insurance pool because they aren't able to afford it anymore.
Okay. Thank you. Next question, Selma.
First, I'd like to thank you both for your time this evening. One of the really burning questions that I've had is sort of restoring the integrity of our urban cities. And with that, I think that we can all acknowledge that perhaps we need diversification in our energy markets. Absolutely, there are things that we need to look for at home as far as getting energy, whether that be drilling, or whether that be going after alternative energy, or all three. However, there is a fundamental question of consumption in the U.S. in which the average American citizen has to look at themselves and say, my responsibility to this world does not end solely at my sports utility vehicle, does not end solely at what I want to do in my house. The fact of the matter is, we all have a responsibility to saving this planet and saving our planet for our children and our grandchildren. I want to know what comprehensive solutions are to restoring the quality that we have in our urban cities so that people don't have to drive 50, 60 miles an hour to work. The average Michigan commute is unprecedented throughout the rest of the country. How is that going to be addressed under either of these campaigns?
Thank you so much. Who would like to take that first?
You get what a treat we had yesterday as General Motors celebrated 100 years of dedication to America and to Michigan. And what a treat we saw seeing the new Volt and the opportunity that provides us to begin to break our addiction to the traditional automobile. The average American, I must say, the average American, though, drives to and from work under 40 miles per day. So with a Volt, per se, the average American would actually not have to burn a single drop of gas to get to and from. You hit the nail on the head from my standpoint. I represent the city of Detroit. The city of Grand Rapids is a beautiful, thriving urban center. I think cities are the lifeblood of America. You get neighborhoods, you get density, you get population, you have mass transit, and you have opportunity. I believe an Obama presidency recognizes that while Detroit is the motor city, that we have to be smarter when it comes to the cars that we produce. Senator Obama came under a great deal of heat in my hometown for challenging the Big Three to expand the efficiency of their automobiles. Senator McCain has not talked about expanding and increasing CAFE standards. Senator Obama has, and he's challenged all of our manufacturers to double the mileage fuel efficiency of their vehicles. And I think that is critically important to us. He's also promised that he'll help us retool those cities, those manufacturing sectors, by investing $150 million into new manufacturing to retool the factories that haven't existed, that have failed in our urban centers, and create green marketplaces, green manufacturing facilities. And so I think that will begin to, again, rebuild community, because through a job, through employment, you can support your family and support yourself and build opportunity. And those jobs in green technologies, those jobs in retooling our domestic auto industry so that they're creating more efficient vehicles, I believe will go a long way towards building that society that you described.
We support reducing the carbon footprint. I understand exactly where you're coming from. And there's not a discrepancy or disparity, or they're not at odds between creating more energy opportunities, creating more growth opportunities, and rebuilding our core urban cities. So those two aren't at odds with one another. In fact, I was just reading a piece in one of the Capitol newsletters the other day, and it might have been actually today, where Kurt Studel, who's the head of Michigan Department of Transportation, is lamenting the fact that they're not able to expand on some of these light rail options that places like Portland, Oregon have used, because when the price of gas went up to $4, people started to drive less. They started to conserve. They used the marketplace to make decisions on their own, which meant that the gas tax revenue has come down. That has huge implications. Buzz and his colleagues over in the Michigan legislature are dealing with that now because we don't have enough money to repair the roads that we have now, let alone build new roads, let alone increase some of these options like bus and light rail that I think Detroit would like to start to implement so that they could create more expansion. I think that's a great idea, and McCain supports that as well. Not only because it would help reduce the carbon footprint, but if you look at places like Portland, Oregon, and Rochester and some other places that use the light rail and buses, what you see, and this was just in MERS or Gongwer the other day, is that you'll get more development that goes along those. So you'll not only be providing more transportation, which is a huge problem for folks in the inner city to get to the jobs right now, but you'll also create more development for them. But the reality is most people in America do still travel by automobile. Now, I mean, it might be a goal that we need to increase bus and rail, but I think we have to deal with Americans, I mean, the way it is. Not necessarily maybe why I'd like it, but we have to deal with them the way it is. And there, I think, we need to do a couple of things. One, we do need to stop hurting Ford, GM, and Chrysler. Not, again, not a bailout or a handout, but not hit them over the head, because the advances that are going to come to create things like the Chevy Volt are only going to happen if GM is healthy, because they're pouring millions of dollars into research and development, as is Ford, as is Chrysler. And we don't want to be whacking them. The other problem we have is also with the courts. I know we've been very, very active in the Attorney General's office in filing amicus briefs in front of the court briefs, because you have huge battles by other states, primarily on the coasts, that want to use the auto industry as a whipping boy for global warming and CO2 emissions. And what they're trying to do is implement multiple standards and 50-state standards, which in essence become 50-state CAFE standards. As a matter of fact, Senator John McCain has voted for higher CAFE standards in his time in Congress in both the House and the Senate. So he has supported greater efficiency by the automakers. But what we can't have is 50 states setting different standards and different CAFE standards, because that will bankrupt Ford, GM, and Chrysler if we let that happen.
Thank you. Next question, Sarah.
I would like to know what each of the candidates plan to do to uphold women's rights, specifically on Roe versus Wade or affordable birth control, and equal pay for the same job.
Question about women's rights, equal pay for equal work, reproductive control, that sort of thing. Who would like to take that first?
Love to.
Please.
Senator Obama has unapologetically said that he will support the continuation of Roe v. Wade, believing that women do have a right to choose, that as he has an opportunity to appoint justices to the Supreme Court, and we might have as many as 3 justices to the Supreme Court, that choice is an issue that must be considered when appointing those justices to the United States Supreme Court. Senator Obama will also fund for the first time the Office of Women's Business Development. Right now, under the Clinton administration, that office was created to support women-owned entrepreneurs, women-owned businesses that are trying to get a leg up in our society. Unfortunately, under the Bush White House, with the support of the Republican Congress, that office continues to go unfunded. And certainly, Senator Obama, I heard it in Denver, I think many of us that watched that speech did, said that he will support equal pay for all of our U.S. citizens. So that will be right there in support of women's rights.
And to answer the question, I am unapologetic, and Senator McCain is unapologetic that he is right to life. He is pro-life, and he is proud of it, because he believes that life begins at the moment of conception. And he is going to defend that and appoint justices to the United States Supreme Court that defend that. These are the smallest, most innocent of our human beings, and that's what government exists to protect. If you believe that life begins at conception, then you have an obligation and a duty to stand up for that. That's what he did when he was in the military, was stand up for those who couldn't defend themselves, and that's what he'll do as President of the United States. If you look at who he surrounded himself with, he surrounded himself with women, and very powerful women. He's chosen one to be his running mate, Sarah Palin, who's running for Vice President of the United States. governor from the state of Alaska. If you look at who's running his campaign, it's Carla Fiorina. She used to be the head of Hewlett-Packard out in California. Now she's devoting herself full-time to helping John McCain turn this country around.